Hi everybody, I'm sat in my local wood after my daily allocated walk. I'm very fortunate that I've got a wood like this near me to come and explore, and spring is definitely in full flow now. The leaves are bright on the trees, there are bees and insects buzzing around, and I can hear lots of beautiful birds too. You probably know some of the birds that I can hear now. You might be able to hear them through this video as well. So I thought it'd be a good idea to tell you a story about birds. You might not know which one of Britain's birds is actually the king of the birds, and it might be a bird which you wouldn't expect. The birds, a long time ago, were all gathered together and they were having an argument about which one of them should be the king. All the birds had a different strong argument. They all had a strong case. The blackbird thought he should be the king because he had a beautiful singing voice. The woodpecker thought he should be the king because he could smack his head against a tree without getting the headache. The kingfisher thought he should be the king. He could dive into water like a blue dart. Every bird had a strong case, but they couldn't make up their minds. They were flapping, squawking, pecking, and then finally they went quiet. On the ground, there was a shadow with huge wings. So they all looked up, and they could see, flying down to the ground, slowly circling like this, there was an eagle. The eagle landed, and all the birds, they stood in a line for him as he strutted up and down, looking like this. We shall have a competition to decide the king of the birds. Which one of us can fly highest into the sky shall be crowned king. And all the birds, well, they knew the eagle would win that competition, but they were all scared of the eagle. So they lined up, the owl counted them down, and they all took off. And the little birds, they tried their best to keep up. Their little wings like this were flapping. And the robin, the chaffinch, the blue tit, the goldfinch, they tried their best, but it wasn't long before they were tired and they had to fly back down to the ground. The bigger birds, they kept up a little bit longer, like the jackdaw and the jay and the pigeon. But then they started to get a bit tired too, and they had to give up as well. The larger birds, the heron, the swan, the sparrowhawk, they could keep up with the eagle for a little bit longer than the others, but they got tired too, and it wasn't long before they had to give up as well and fly down to the ground. They looked up, and now the eagle was by himself, and he was so proud he wanted to show off. He was doing loop-de-loops and these acrobatics, almost touching the clouds, and he knew all the other birds were still watching him. And then even the eagle got tired. He couldn't go any higher. His wings were aching, and he stopped flapping like this. It was time to go back down when he felt something move on the back of his head. The whole time, something had been hiding there. A tiny little brown bird moved over the eagle's head to the end of the eagle's huge curved beak, and with its tiny little wings, it flapped like this. That little bit higher into the sky, the eagle couldn't stop it, and that little bird won the competition. They went back down, the eagle and this tiny bird, and they landed on the ground, and all the other birds had seen what had happened, and they crowned that tiny brown creature as their king. And that little brown bird was, in fact, a wren. No bigger than a mouse. The eagle, he was furious, and he tried to eat the wren. He tried to eat the king, even though he was the king. So the wren had to hide in a little burrow, a little mouse hole. And the bigger birds, they didn't like that they'd been tricked, like the kestrel and the buzzard and the sparrowhawk. So they watched, they took it in turns outside the hole to try and catch the wren. And at night, it was the owl's turn. The owl stayed up all the way through that night, and in the morning, when the sun came up in the distance, a golden ray of light, touched the owl's eyes and it blinked and it turned the other way. It's good timing now for the sun, actually. And that was the moment the wren had been waiting for. The wren, it came out from its hole, it disappeared off into the bushes, and it escaped. So the wren still today hides away from all the bigger birds. They're everywhere, they're very common, but you hardly ever see them. They're very small and they hide. But all the other smaller birds, when they need good advice, they know to go to their king, the clever, the smartest bird, the tiny, little wren. The end.